Hi, this is Ariel from the Children of Karma. Today we're going to discuss Mars and Pluto ancestral aspects. And this one is about a strong, ruthless survival instinct. And this can be very difficult on your system. It's about an assertion of power and difficulty doing that when you were a child. Perhaps in childhood you dealt with some violent experience, maybe violence of a sexual nature too, and forced to do things you didn't want to do. Um, when I was 12, I experienced domestic violence. Up until that point, it was all verbal. And interestingly enough, Mars, it was of a racial undertone. And, they would insult each other about their culture and didn't realize that they're also insulting me. And at that point, when I was 12, my father's an alcoholic. And that night, he made me the bartender. And, although I thought I measured everything the way he told me to, and still not my responsibility. But that night, it seemed things were different, and he acted out violently. He grabbed all the house keys and put them under his pillow and told me to sleep in the room with him. And, when this is also a little strange too, but I'm going to say it. When I was sleeping with him in the bed until I was 12, until I got my menstrual cycle. And then I slept in my room. And then this night it was like, no, you're coming in the bed with me. And uh, this situation, I froze. I froze. I could not assert my will, not at all. And I carried so much shame, so much guilt from this experience. And there was always a sexual undertone to the relationship with my father and I sensed it. I could see that he had this inappropriate attraction. And while he was drunk, he, made that clear verbally and, with his hand gestures and such. Regardless, this can bring a lot of, it can build up a lot of rage within. And it can come out in inappropriate ways. You can fight with strangers, random people in grocery stores. I fought with at fairs. Just anyone, if anyone tries to push in front of you in a line, like you want to cut their head off, it's just an inappropriate reaction to. And you can also get these sort of violent images. Sometimes they're of a sexual nature too. The violent images are so destructive on the mind. And if you don't tell someone, they just ping pong back and forth in your mind, and then they just build up steam. You get more and more creative with the ways that you're going to enact the punishments for this. So, and for example, the sexual nature, there was a lot of porn in the house, a lot of porn. My father worked for someone who owned this store, and I'm not sure if it was just a video store that also had porn, or if it was like that they had many things and they also had porn. But regardless, he brought home boxes of it and would put it in the closet. And you remember the covers of those DVDs are so graphic. Even for a child of 5 to be seeing them, it's like it corrupts the mind. And even when I'm trying to watch Fantasia in the DVD player, there's a porn, and you just see things. And the ones that really stuck in my mind, one had a racial undertone of like a cop and an immigrant, and even like a weird one that was with Ron Jeremy, and there was this occulty vibe to it where in the middle of the action, he would change into a woman with a woman who carried an accessory, let's say. This was weird for a young girl to see, right? And this also calls to displacement bearing that masculine energy, bearing it. So you can also have women who are in lesbian relationships, men who prefer to, they get along better with women. It there's a distrust of that masculine energy, and there was definitely that distrust with me. And when the relationship with your father is of where you could see that sex is a currency, your feminine energy is a currency. This is not healthy, not healthy. And you go into your relationships, even sex can be an assault. It can feel like an assault. And I've had this experience as well. I've cried several times, and it just always felt like a transaction where I was losing. I was not receiving anything in this transaction. And maybe even keep you away from those relationships altogether. The most important thing with this is to open up. Open up about those violent images you may experience. Open up about the feelings that you have. Otherwise, they will continue to grow and build up, and that rage will be expressed on someone else who doesn't deserve it. And if you do bottle it up, it's destructive for you, and you will attract it from outside sources. I've had plenty of those situations where it seems like why is this even happening? For example, I went on a cruise recently, and a lot of things happen on this cruise. But as far as like a random fight, I got into a random fight with this man. He was like taller than 6 feet, and getting in my face about, and we're in a disabled elevator, like we're fighting over who has the right in this elevator. I mean, it was just such an odd interaction, and it was because I was holding in all of the feelings I had. Another situation that can happen, like you can have a medical injuries, you can have a disease, like a long term, something that forces you to build this superhuman strength and courage. Like you will overcome, but you're forced to because of this tragic situation. And when I fell 50 feet, and I shattered my tailbone and fractured the lower part of my body with so many complications with my bladder, with dead nerves and chronic pain. And like, after all of that and surviving all of that on the cruise, my memory is a little bit off. So I ended up going on this cruise with an expired pain patch. And I had 5 days to go. And with Mars Pluto, you just tell yourself you're going to do it. You remove all the escape plans, and you just find a way. It's this placement can move mountains. You can do anything you set your mind to. This is why, magic and occult can be a part of this placement as well, because you do really see the power of mind over matter. The fixed signs too, they can experience something, that can really crush the human spirit. And I've dealt with several of those situations. But I think at this point, once you've overcome, you think, you can't break me. You can't break me. I'm unbreakable now. I am unbreakable now. There is nothing you can do. You should have broken me a long time ago, because it's not going to happen now. Some things that some positives, right? That or some tips that I can give for this to manage that frustration, because the key is to lower the intensity of that anger, because otherwise it affects your clarity. You won't be able to make proper decisions for yourself. So reduce that anxiety. Remember, you're cut from a different cloth. Okay? You're cut from a different cloth. Anyone who tries to tell you that you can't do something, I mean, what do they know? And who are they? Right? When you set your mind to it, you can do it. And you will. You will. I believe it. And some of these little things that I've used along the way, like, first of all, exercise is wonderful for any sort of Mars dysfunction with Mars or a weak Mars. Exercise is wonderful. Mars loves physical activity. I I used to lift weights 6 days a week because it just freed my mind from the frustration. And feels good. You know, you can work out that anger, that frustration through lifting weights, through dancing. Dancing is so wonderful. Like, after my injuries, lifting weights is not, it's not an option, at least the way that I used to do it, right? It's not an option. But dance is wonderful. I've used dance. Dance is also can be sexually cathartic, which is also helpful with Mars. Dance to the music, you know, don't look at yourself in the mirror, right? We're not judging here. You're not even judging yourself. Allow your body to move freely the way that it wants. And even sing. Oh God, singing, I think, has helped me through all the pain. Music has helped me through all the pain. Sing. I think it's the quickest way to change your vibration. Just sing. And drumming. Drumming is supposed to mimic Mother Earth's heartbeats, and I find that it does relax me, especially during meditation. I like to listen to a lot of drumming and animal noises. I think animals we can learn a lot from, especially with Mars, Pluto, the frustration and the survival instinct. The animals have that as well. It's the frustration that an animal feels. Think about it. They release it right away, and then they just go back to that state of calm. They don't second guess what they're thinking. They just express it. And that's how you have to handle this. It's the best. Otherwise, it will come out in more extreme ways. Remember that you have a hidden power, that you can accomplish anything. I mean, I think of all the things that I've had to survive, and you know what? It gives me a bit of stability, a bit of grounding, knowing that I survived all of that in such a weak and vulnerable position. Now I'm in a stronger position. Um, I I can handle what comes my way. And I know that even when everything has been destroyed, I can rebuild it again. Thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you at thechildrenofkarma.com to explore our services, especially the Ancestral Pattern service that can unlock all of the patterns that you are carrying forward from your ancestors, how we can best manage them to benefit us and the future, our children. And thank you. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.